welcome to EMS at Sea Level, from my home to yours. Today's guest is Dr. Bill Cardoso, who is the founder and CEO of Creative Electron. Bill, great to see you. We spend a lot of time chatting on Zoom, so it's nice to do a proper interview for a change. For our audience, start by giving me a quick introduction to Dr. Cardoso and to Creative Electron.
So Creative Electron is a company based in San Marcos, California. We're a half an hour north of San Diego, and we design, manufacture X-ray systems for the SMT market and a wide range of other applications. Mm-hmm. And that's a company that I founded in 2008, so 12 years ago in my garage. And we've been in a steady growth since, and which has been an amazing ride. We doubled revenue last year just organically by, engaging some key accounts. And so it's been great.
Yeah, and I think you got a kind of a reputation in a few fields. One in kind of creativity in the counterfeit market, but also this kind of can-do response in, how can we apply inspection, not just to say go, no go, but to actually add value. And for me, that's kind of been something that's helped shape your journey and probably helped that growth.
It did, yeah. So we talk a lot about artificial intelligence, but that's actually been a pivotal new technology that we've adopted that helped us bring X-ray inspection to applications and industries that really couldn't afford X-ray inspection because of the manpower needed to run analysis. So if we can now remove that manpower and let the systems run in an autonomous way, now we can, penetrate and reach a much broader audience. So since we started, my passion has been, and our mission turned into a mission, right, has been in identifying new industries and new places where X-ray inspection can be used and bring these solutions to new audiences.
Yeah, and it's that idea of taking that raw data and making it into actionable business intelligence that's really, exactly. I think sets you apart. And we'll get into that whole digital transformation debate a little bit further. But let's just start by exploring the last few months for you and the whole COVID-19 experience, from where you first identified that there was a supply chain disruption in China to disruptions in demand, working practices. What's it been like? What have you seen?
So we have, speaking from the perspective, being in California, we had, things started, we started to hear how deep things were hitting China around October, November. And at that point, when we saw China closing the way they did, our leadership team got together and we saw it's a matter of time before it gets here. Of course, we didn't know how deep, how far, and how, it would take, but we knew, okay, it's going to happen and we can't avoid this. And then we saw, I have a good friend in Italy and his facility was shutting down. It's like, okay, it's moving west, right?
Yeah,
so
it's coming.
It's just a matter of time. So we, are you familiar with the 20-mile march strategy? So that's something I read a few years ago. It was a Jim Collins book, one of the great books he wrote, I think, Great by Choice, I think is the book. So he talks about this 20-mile march, and the 20-mile march is all about fanatic discipline, right? It's no matter what happens, you keep moving forward, right? And in the whole ties back to the story of the guys trying to reach South Pole for the first time, Scott and Evanson, and how, and the whole story, Scott, if the weather was good, he'll run, they'll march 50 miles. When there was a storm, they would just, camp and hunker down. And so it was a very disorganized march towards South Pole. Amundsen, on the other hand, he had a very strict discipline of marching 20 miles every day, no matter what the weather. Regardless. If it was good weather, bad weather, 20 miles every day. And he was able to reach the South Pole and come back alive.
Yeah.
Scott's, he got to the South Pole later, and he was never able to come back.
Never returned. Yeah.
So what we try to understand, okay, what is our 20-mile march? And one of the things we did is to prepare and identify locations near our team's office. Because, you know, we think about, oh, software is easy. They get the laptops, they go home, they work from home, right? Accounting, finance, marketing, sales, very easy. Grab the laptops, go home. We make X-ray machines, right? Big, heavy, expensive X-ray machines right here in San Marcos. You can't just bring that home. So we had to plan. So, and that's what we did. So we identify locations close to our employees or assemblers' home, so that if there was a sheltering home order, they will continue to work, continue a 20-mile march every day, right? Yeah. So when in the key moment for me, Phil, was when the sheriff department went to Tesla and told them to close. When that happened, I said, okay,
we got to close too.
Let's move, right? So we picked up, we packed our assembly cells. We moved to 8 different locations in San Diego County, and we kept moving forward, right? We did, it was less efficient, but we kept moving forward, like, and we didn't stop.
Yeah, and to me, that experience you had of starting the business in the garage, and you're now kind of almost in 8 different garages, gave you the knowledge that you can actually make stuff happen by doing it that way. What about specifically with the fight against COVID-19? What have you seen in terms of being able to assist with that, helping customers with that, those kind of what people would call essential services that have been keeping people busier for the last few months?
Yeah, absolutely. So we manufacture equipment, right? We're a capital equipment manufacturer, and we've so March 19th is when things stopped in California, and for the following week or so, everything froze, right? No one knew what was going to happen, and then the essentials kept on going. So we had customers that both stopped and customers that needed a lot of help right away. So it was an interesting exercise of our organization to be able to keep, servicing those machines that couldn't stop at these essential services, and that's military, medical devices, etc. Yeah. And at the same time, keep on manufacturing machines for those customers that would open sometime in the future, and we didn't know when that time was. And it was challenging because we had to deal with flight cancellations. Flights basically don't exist anymore. Our X-ray van was in Texas, so we had to worry about bringing it back, right? Because there were talks of stopping cross-state travel for a while, and we didn't want to keep one of our employees there, open-ended. So it was an interesting time of coordinated logistics, and but I tell you, we have a really good leadership team, and we're able to walk through and talk through these issues with no problem.
Yeah, leadership's huge, and I think that's something that has really been kind of tested, and it's one of those times where leaders either step up or they don't, and it's the same for the team. You're almost like in overtime in a game, and there are those that hang their heads when they're under stress, and those that have stepped up. What's it been like with your team? You've got a pretty, tight team there. I imagine everybody's kind of pulling in one direction at the moment.
It's been another interesting thing that happened is, we talk a lot about, work from home, right? And how some of the functions can grab the laptop, go home and work from there. So this experience, which was, an amazing management experiment we conducted, right? Not because we wanted, but we had to. We're forced to run this amazing management experiment. So what we talk about working from home. Okay, that's great. Get your laptop, work from home. We've been for since I started the company in my garage, I've been a big proponent, a big believer that if you treat people like adults, they will behave like adults. So one of the things we talked about in the past, we don't have a number of vacation days in the company. No one accrues vacation here, right? We have what's called discretionary time off. Means that if you have to take time off, you take time off. No one is going to be controlling how much time you took. No one is going to be counting how many days you took off. And believe it or not, if you treat people like adults, they do behave like adults. So one of the things that has been an incredible transformation for us as well is the fact that when we're merging from managing people to managing results, right? And that's really important. So you don't really care if if one of your employees clocked in at 8 and clocked out at 7, that is not relevant anymore. What's relevant is the results from that work, right? It's that results only work environment, right? It's the focus, and again, within this fanatic discipline, on the results that you get out of your team. And if you do that, you focus on the results, then all this other stuff kind of blends away in a much easier way. So the office is not that required place where people have to come and punch in and punch out. The office becomes a tool to do work, right? Yeah. So we re-engineered the second floor here of our building, and instead of the open space office we had, now we have desks with couches and places where people can, you work from home if you feel like, and if you feel like being in the office is going to be more productive, then you come to the office and spend the day here.
Yeah, and you measure people on results, and those results drive that behavior. And you said it's this great experiment that you've been able to do as a result of COVID-19. And I think, interestingly, necessity is definitely the mother of invention.
Absolutely.
And people have been really creative through this process. What have you seen? What do you see in terms of you talk about some of the management and business style changes. What other changes do you see in the business? And do you see, as we go through the recovery and to the next phase of the industry, do you see big changes? Do you see a big drive to digital transformation? Any other major changes?
I think COVID, I don't think any new transformations that were not going to happen anyway are going to happen. I think COVID sped up a lot of these processes, right? Digital transformation meetings we're having right now, right? The telecommunication, the fact that, for example, we have now a service where customers can send us a board or a sample, and they run the machine from their location, right? Completely virtual laboratory. All these things would happen. They were scheduled to happen. COVID just sped up the process, which was inevitable, right? So what I've seen is that something that some of our customers saw, in the future, when I want to do that, like, I need it tomorrow. Get it done. Digital twin was a wish. Now, like, whoa, holy cow, I actually need this. When is it done, right? So, and automation of the line that, as I said before, was something kind of, in the future when we need it. Now, you can't have 5-6 people on the line anymore because social distancing and everything else. Now, I need automation on the line. So it's very interesting how we have, the window of time that we were forecasting just got shrunk and compressed. Things have to get done.
And they're compressing that technology roadmap, compressing that time that things take. And as you say, those things that were a desire are now an urgent desire. And we all know that in purchasing, you need to create urgency as well as desire. Just desire, particularly with CapEx, can mean, oh yeah, we'll do that. We'll look at it next quarter, or maybe the quarter after. Now it's, how do we fix this issue? And also, what's our return on investment on that? How do we actually make that work? And then interesting to hear you talk about some of those disruptive business models, like providing stuff as a remote service where people can actually, have almost got a dashboard where they can control an X-ray machine there. And it's like, all you've got to do is put the board in for them and then they can take over. And I think that's,
exactly.
That's
a membership offering. Service. So it's X-ray as a service, it's XAS. That's the one we see in the future. It's because the engineer is not in a factory anymore. The engineer is at home. So in some cases, we have customers where the engineer doesn't have access to the X-ray machine, even though they have one in the office because of VPN issues and everything else. So they actually end up sending the boards to here, and they can see the results live from home.
Yeah, and I think what's fascinating there, Bill, is when we look at that, it's like other services that we thought we were dependent on doing face-to-face, and we've realized that we can successfully achieve them in this remote way. And I think some of those we'll learn from and will continue in that way. When the guy gets back, he'll probably realize that actually it's not efficient to tie up his X-ray machine all the time on that, when some of these sporadic demands can just be dealt with by dropping it into a bubble pack and sending it to you, or actually just dialing you up and having you pick it up, or whatever you do on your round. So,
and that's one of the challenges, right, Phil, is this this disruption, right? If you are willing, and I'm a big believer that you have to be willing to disrupt your own business model before somebody else does it for you, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's essential, and I think you are either the disruptor or you're the disrupted. That's the choice, and you have to decide whether you want to lead or follow. And you've always led, so I kind of assume that's the way it's going to go. We talked a bit about leadership and how that's all working and how the team are working at home. What about you and your family? Are you homeschooling? Are you taking care of everybody at home? And are you binging on Netflix and watching Apple TV? Or what are you doing to keep sane when you can't go out to restaurants and can't do the normal things that we take for granted?
Can't even go to the beach, believe it or not, right? That's
I know, which in your area is crazy, isn't it?
I know,
especially when we get into July.
Yeah, no, you buy a house on a beach town and you can go there. So I wonder if we're going to have some discount on our taxes. But family's good, thank you. We have 3 small kids, 4, 8, and 11. So yeah, schooling from home has been a big challenge. Fortunately, Kim has been able to stay at home and navigate the 20 or 30 software packages that they've been using, trying to scramble to get kids, educated. But it's been good. I like old cars, so during this shelter from home, and I took on a project of electrifying a 1928 Ford Model A. So that's a project I'm happy to report has been completed and the car is running. Yeah, so it's I got the powertrain from old 2013 Chevy Volt, and took the batteries and some of the stuff and put on a Model A. So next time you're in town, I'll take for a ride.
Yeah, I think last time we chatted, you were in your garage, and I saw that behind you. See, you're still working from your garage. You can't resist it, can you? Once the guy's in the garage,
it's in your blood, Phil.
Absolutely. Bill, last thing before we wrap up, what advice would you give? What takeaways would you give to your peers, people running kind of small, medium-sized businesses during this crisis? What do they need to do to get through?
What helped us a lot was to identify this 20-mile march, right? Whatever it means to you, whatever it means to your business, for your family, it's to understand what is that pace that you have to keep your organization moving forward. For us, as I said before, we should keep making machines, and that has a very powerful psychological effect on the team, right? Because they see that we're going to keep moving. It doesn't matter what happened. We're going to keep moving. We're going to win this. There's a future because we're not here to survive. We're here to win and to grow.
Yeah.
You should not settle for survival. You have to set your goals for growth, no matter what happens. And your team has to know that. They have to understand that you have their best interest in mind. Throughout this process, we didn't have to lay off anyone because of COVID, and that's been great, right? You take care of them, and they will take care of the company and your clients, and that's what it's all about. That's how you grow.
Yeah, it's having a goal, it's having a clear team. And actually, I hadn't thought of the 20-mile march before, but actually, I think my 20-mile march is talking to people like you, CEOs, every day, and getting that energy and understanding how people are coming through, because collaboration, innovation, that kind of creative, disruptive spirit is really pulling the industry through. And I think we'll come through in a better place when we get to the other side.
I think so.
Bill, thanks for your time. Thanks for your candor. Always an absolute delight to talk. And I'm sure we'll be chatting again soon, whether it's in the office or in the garage. Thank you. And
thanks
Phil.
To
everybody for watching.